By 1937, Hitler and his Nazi regime had taken full control of Germany. And now, the Führer was setting his sights beyond the country's borders.
On the 5th of November 1937, Hitler announced his plans for taking over Czechoslovakia and Austria. When it became clear that Hitler was steering toward war, a high-level military opposition got organized, led by the chief of the General Staff of the Army, General Ludwig Beck.
Ludwig Beck, like a lot of the generals, he wasn't really a Nazi. He was a conservative Prussian military officer who lived his entire life, as most of them had, within the confines of the military.
Beck fought against Hitler. He wrote to Hitler, he made speeches. He said, okay, we want no war. But Beck resigned in the year 1938 because of Hitler's plans to make war.
And after that, he becomes, in retirement, a figure around whom a lot of the generals coalesce, because he's very highly respected, and somebody they look to as almost a father figure in a way.
And Beck was supported by people like the head of intelligence, Admiral Wilhelm Canaris, and the tipping point that put the opposition into being was the threat of war.
In September 1938, there was the first plans for a coup d'etat against Hitler. Beck's group said, okay, let's get him, let's bring Hitler into jail, and we will try him.
But at the Munich conference in 1938, any anti-war momentum that might have helped the military remove Hitler from office was lost. Because it was here that the nations of France, Britain, and Italy allowed Germany to annex the Sudetenland in Czechoslovakia.
And the whole German population was happy. No war, and a new part, new living space for Germany without the war. Hitler was the greatest for Germany at that time.
But any further dreams of a peaceful German expansion were soon shattered when Hitler invaded Poland on September 1st, 1939. 2 days later, France and Britain declared war. The Allied forces proved no match for the German war machine. Within a year, Hitler had invaded and conquered Denmark, Norway, the Netherlands, Belgium, Luxembourg, and France. Unfortunately, Hitler's military successes provided political cover for even more restrictive laws and ever more severe punishments.
For instance, the men in the street, the women in the street, the refusal to use the Hitler salute was a form of resistance during the war that carried the death penalty. Or for spreading a rumor, or for listening to foreign radio stations. The Gestapo often registered that kind of activity.
Among the few who dared risk imprisonment or death at the hands of the Gestapo were a series of small and largely ineffectual dissident groups. These were usually comprised of intellectuals, socialists, members of the clergy, aristocrats, and academics. One such group, based at the University of Munich, was the White Rose. Its members included young students like Sophie Scholl, her brother Hans, and Christoph Probst. United by Christian beliefs of tolerance and nonviolence, the White Rose protested the curbing of individual freedoms under the Nazi regime.
The White Rose distributed anti-Nazi pamphlets. This group, of course, had to remain as secretive as they could. When you organize resistance in a police state, in a totalitarian dictatorship, it's not advisable to tell too many other people about it, because then stool pigeons, then Gestapo spies are very quickly going to get you.
On February 18, 1943, Sophie, Hans, and Christoph were arrested, tried for treason, and within 4 days, beheaded. Perhaps one of the most influential figures in the civilian resistance was Karl Friedrich Goerdeler. The former mayor of Leipzig, Goerdeler had resigned in protest over the Nazi demolition of a monument to the famed Jewish composer Felix Mendelssohn.
He was an active resistor, even after his resignation as mayor, and eventually he became recognized because he was the most dynamic and the most resolute civil leader among the resistance.
Goerdeler and his circle were mostly aristocratic and wanted to restore Germany, and a Germany that they imagined or remembered from their youth. So their plans said that Germany be run on a fairly authoritarian and hierarchical line, with more power to be given to what they called the traditional ruling elite.
Another secret resistance group, comprised largely of aristocrats, was the Kreisau Circle. They took their name from the estate where they would meet, home to one of its leading members, Helmut James von Moltke.
The Kreisau Circle were against an assassination of Hitler. They thought that would be immoral. But the Kreisau Circle believed that however good Nazism might have been in principle early on, it had now turned against Germany and German interests, and they wanted a decentralized Germany based on Christian values with a very weak central state. It has to be said it was a really very unrealistic policy that they had. They clashed with the conservative resistance around Goerdeler, whom they thought were hopelessly reactionary, and Goerdeler thought they were just dreamers.